Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is day 34 of the Omer. As we prepare ourselves to receive Torah, we're about halfway there. Well, maybe a little more, but almost halfway there. And let's just take a moment to express gratitude. This week in the counting of the Omer, we concentrate on the attribute of Hod, of gratitude, of thank you. So let's take a moment to enjoy the splendor of today and breathe in the gratitude that comes with being together, being at home, being safe, and breathe out all the other stuff. Page 99. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Yehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Yehorahi. Elohai neshama We turn to page 141, Psalm 150. It's the prayer where we get to listen to music, literally, with all the symbols and all the ways that we can express our love to God. So please dance, sing, harmonize wherever you are. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. We turn to page 143. We rise, third line from the left, Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Ozi v'zimrat Yah. Vayehi li lishua. 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 Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. And welcome, Shabbat Shalom, those of you who are out there by live streaming, family and friends of the Bass and Navarro family. We're here in Temple Aliyah, right in the heart of Woodland Hills. Does it feel good to be back in the sanctuary? Neil, Stacey, doesn't it feel great to be back in the sanctuary? So many celebrations that your family's had, 15 months that we weren't here, high holidays that I know exactly where you sit and weren't able to be there in person. And Justin to be able to share with you, and Ashley to be here in person with your family and friends. And those of you who are here, you don't, when you're watching, you don't understand what it takes to put this on, do you? Right? In terms of all of the things that have to come together so that we can come to you and bring our services and to be in your living rooms, and for you to feel as if you are right here with us. You are part of our virtual community on this Shabbat, and we're just so blessed to be able to celebrate with you and to celebrate with everybody here. The beginning of our prayers are with a prayer called the Baruch Hu. It's a prayer in which we actually bow and acknowledging our part and power as a sacred community. Even when you're at home, by the way, when we ask you if you want to stand up, we invite you please to stand up for these most important prayers. If you want to bow and move along with us, you can dance. You can do whatever you want there in the comfort of your living rooms, as the Bass family did last night in their comfort of their home. So we're going to turn page 149 for the Baruch Hu. I ask you to please rise.
So we start with an igun, which means there's no words, so just sing from your heart. La 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la, la la la, la 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 la, ya la la la, la la la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach.
Your turn to bow.
Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la. La 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 la, ay la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uborei choshech Osei shalom uborei et hakol Yalalai lai yalalai Yalalai lai yalalai Yalalai lai yalalai Lai 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 lai
Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 153 with Or Chadash.
Or Chadash al Zion Ta'ir Or Chadash al Zion Ta'ir V'nizke Chulanu Mehera le'oro Ay, 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 ay Or Chadash al Zion Ta'ir Or Chadash al Zion Ta'ir V'nizke Chulanu Mehera le'oro Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot.
We're starting to prepare for the Shema now, and as Tyson makes his way up and is going to lead us in just a few minutes, we'll first bring together the four corners of our tzitzit as we prepare at the bottom of page 154, V'Havienu.
V'Havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiut le'artzeinu Ki el poel Yeshuotata Uvanu v'charta mikol hamilashon V'keravtanu l'shimcha hagadol l'shimcha hagadol Zela v'emet להודות לך וליחדך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל
Tyson is going to lead us in the Shema now. We're on page 155.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alvavecha v'shinatam lavanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bebetecha uvletecha avaderech uveshokbecha uvekomecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'chayula totafot beinenecha uktavtam amazuzot beitecha uvisharecha.
We continue to ourselves quietly at the top of page 156. Tyson's going to continue. We're in the middle of page 156 with Vayomer.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Lemor Daber El Bnei Yisrael Ve'amarta Alehem V'asu Lahem Tzitzit Al Kanfei Vigdehem Ledorotam V'nat Nu Al Tzitzit Hakanaf V'til Techele V'chaya Lachem Let sit uritem oto uzkartem et kol mitzvot Adonai ve'asitem otam ve'lo taturu ahare levavchem ve'are enechem asher zentonim aharechem leman tiskeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai ve'hitem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Lehiot Lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohim Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Excellent job. What a good start to the morning. We're going to continue now on page 158 with Micha Mocha. Okay.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורה תהילות עושה פלא. Again. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורה תהילות עושה פלא. שיר החדש שיבחו גאולים, לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמלכו, ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאללה אליי, ליי ליי, יאללה אליי. סול ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו מך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמה, קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני.
We rise for the Amidah. We're on page 159, and Tyson is going to lead us.
Baruch
Atah
Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Anorah El Elyon Gomel Hasedim Tovim Vekonei Chakol Vezocher Hasdei Avod Umevi Goel Livnei V'nechem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshia Umogen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah Atagi Bor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Meti Mata Rav Lechoshia Marit Hata Mechakel Haim Be'eseh Bechaye metim berahamim ramim somech noflim verofe holim umatir hasurim umekayem emunato le'shenei afar michamocha ba'al givurot umedome la melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanata lechahayot metim Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hametim.
Mekadesh et shimcha ba'olam כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי אמרו ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך הארץ כבודו אז בקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול אז בקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לעומת שרפים מתנסים לעומת שרפים מתנסים לעומת שרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון וקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים ועינינו תראנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך עינינו תראנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד על ידי דוד על ידי דוד משיח צדקך על ידי דוד על ידי דוד על ידי דוד משיח צדקך ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד לך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue praying to ourselves through page 166 in the Hebrew, in the English, or whatever prayers are in your heart.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד וברכירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלל בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבם מבורך לעלם לעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה ברכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמרן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותנו ותכון לכל בית ישראל קראו ונשמעיה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים אלינו וכל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומם הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
We're going to begin our Torah service now, and since we're actually physically in the sanctuary, some of us at least, we're going to open the ark for real. You'll see Corey and Danielle Weinstein making their way up to open the ark and take out the Torah as Chazan Mimi leads us in Ki Mitzion, page 168.
Mitzion, Tuesday Torah, Barana.
may be seated if you're here in our sanctuary, and if you're at your home and you're standing in honor of the Torah being taken out, you may be seated as well. Oh, it feels so nice to be here and take out a Torah and to be part of a community. And so Rabbi Galko and I play a little game on Shabbat with the Torah portions where if she's giving the main address, I'm supposed to give an introduction, but we really don't know what the other's talking about. I know a little bit. And so we just hope that I don't step on whatever comments she's prepared. So those of you in the sanctuary, if you get to watch her face, if that ever happens, right, you can see her going like, and then she's got to figure out what to do. It's a lovely game that I love, Rabbi Galko. This week's portion of Amor has so many things in it. A couple of famous laws. In fact, one of them, Tyson, you're going to be talking about in your comments later on. There's a couple of well-known sections here. It doesn't have, it's so interesting. If you look through it, you go like, well, there's not a lot of exciting things. An important part of here is about the description of the holidays. It goes through all the holidays. Beginning, by the way, if you don't know, in the Bible, Passover is the first holiday. Right? That's in the first month because that's the Exodus, and then it continues on. So it describes all the holidays, and then it describes about Passover, and then it gets all the way to Shavuot. I think that's where Rabbi Galko might be talking a little bit later, right? You can nod your head about that period. You can see if I'm getting warm, all right? But I do want to talk about one thing in here that's really interesting because it talks about all the holidays. It talks about sacrifices and things that you will do. And then in the middle of it, it says, right, I'm going to find this verse 23, right? 22, and when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I, the Lord, am your God. In the middle of this, right before Shavuot, which is the time of the harvest, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this idea, some of you may know this, a biblical obligation, some of you know this, to leave the corner of your fields. Right? When you're harvesting, you can't take everything. When you're taking all of the food you have to leave corners. You have to leave a certain amount for the poor, for the stranger, for the people who are vulnerable. By the way, this is the foundation of taking care of people in our society. We know that. Right? Everything that you have, we want you to know, really doesn't belong to you. And the holidays are reminding us. Right? That's why I believe that it's here. Like, why is this part here in the middle of the holidays and all of these sacrifices? Because I believe that in our greatest moments of joy, right, when you're celebrating all of your accomplishments, it's really easy to say, it's all about me. It's all about me. Tyson, sometimes, this isn't like what you're like, but sometimes in the middle of everything, it's easy to say, like, life is all about me. Right? Look at all these people. Look at everything, the celebration. Look at the holidays we have. And right in the middle of this, it says, look, you may be celebrating your accomplishments. You may be celebrating so many of the things that you have, but we want to remind you, it's not all about you. When you go out to that field, you have to remember there are other people that are part of our world. And you have to remember you have an obligation to them. So don't get caught up in everything that's yours. Don't get caught up in thinking that you're the be-all and end-all. Yeah, you may have worked hard for that harvest, but you just remember, you didn't make that land. Right? You didn't make the sunshine that came down on it. You didn't make the water, although you tried to navigate it to the crops. Just remember that there are other pieces of the world of which are gifts to you, and that you have to return them back. I love this section, right? This idea that we can think it's all about us. Just stop. Take a moment. Remember all the gifts and the obligations you have to return. We're going to be reading from this section. So by the way, those of you here in the sanctuary, or those of you at home, you can exchange. If you've been using a prayer book, you can put that down for a moment. Instead, you can take out a Torah book, our Chumash here, the larger of the red books, those of you in our sanctuary. And the Torah reading itself is going to be from the book of Leviticus, and it's going to be page 722. Page 722. It's chapter 22, verse 17. So if you're at home and you have any Bible around, this is a great thing. Like, there's there's only one. Right? We're going to be the same books, the same verses, everything else. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 17. Before we start reading that, I'm going to call up Justin and Ashley and Tyson, of course, you. Because what would this moment be? Because our parents are going to speak to their son and going to present him with his talit. We're just so overjoyed. By the way, the same bima and where Justin was became a bar mitzvah himself now, his son becomes bar mitzvah. And so as you come up, by the way, when they are up here, they are permitted to take off their masks in that area that is their safe bubble. And we have disinfectant. We have all kind of things that we take care of. So Ashley and Justin, you can take off your masks, and Tyson. And Tyson, get close to your mom. Just take a step forward there so you're closer to her. Just one little tiny more step. You like her, don't you? Yeah, there you go. All right, Ashley.
Tyson, I can't believe this moment is actually here. I remember so clearly the day that I found out I was pregnant. All the thoughts of a first-time parent ran through my head. Mostly, will I be a good mother? Will I raise a good person? When I found out I was having a boy, it became, will I raise a good man? I'm sure many parents can relate. As many of you know, I did not grow up in a Jewish background. 13 years ago, I did not know much about the Jewish faith or community. Shortly after you were born, your father and I had a meeting with Rabbi Vogel so we could talk about raising you Jewish. I was not sure what that meant or what that would look like at the time, but the one thing I did know was that it was important to your father. He always talked about imagining his son having a bar mitzvah like he did. And now you finally stand before the Torah like your father did many years ago, and you enter into the new responsibilities, not only as a person, but as part of the Jewish community. And we are proud of the young man you are becoming. I've gotten the pleasure of learning right alongside of you the deep value of knowing the history, being involved in a community, and carrying on Jewish traditions of those before you so that you can be proud of who you are and where you come from. I don't know if you remember a few years ago when it was just you and your brother and I when we went up north for the holidays during Hanukkah. And we brought the menorah so we could light the candles as to not miss any days. The problem was there was no one to recite the prayer. So I looked it up on the internet, I listened to an audio so I could pronounce all the words correctly, and in my best Hebrew accent, I recited the prayer for us that night. Because although I'm not Jewish myself, it was important for me to show you always to observe the holidays no matter the circumstances. The following year, it happened again, except this time we forgot the menorah. So we pulled out the phone, downloaded a menorah app, and this time you recited the prayer for us perfectly. It was that year that I personally got to witness your immense growth and knowledge over the last 5 years and see you step up and become a leader, just like you did last night during Shabbat and as you are right now during your bar mitzvah. I want you to take in this moment and recognize who you are as you stand here, an extension of a proud lineage of people. A couple of years ago, you wrote an affirmation, and today I see you have fulfilled it. You are a powerful, strong, smart, kind, and free person. I also see a loving, compassionate, protective, super smart, talented, and respectful young man. No cap. People, kids and adults, feel fortunate to know you and be around you and enjoy your company. Everyone always wants to praise us for raising such a good kid, but I want to let you know that although you're an extension of us, you are your own person. You deserve the praise. It's through the decisions that you make and the person you choose to be that creates that everlasting impression on those around you, and that's not something that your father and I can take credit for. Your bar mitzvah is only one step in your journey. I hope you have learned that it is the gifts that you carry within you that bring the greatest value. I hope that as you grow older, you never lose sight of being a kid. Always have fun, be playful, laugh, and never take life too seriously. Strive to continue learning and growing and become more solid in your faith and who you are. Think carefully about the choices you make and stay aligned to your higher self, even if it feels lonely. Never be afraid to take initiative and to fail. In fact, fail a lot, because it's through your failure where your most valued lessons will be learned. As long as you keep going, you will get where you want to be. Know that you have a voice, and it's important and it matters, and use it to stand for what's right. And lastly, what I always tell you, brush your hair. We love you, Tyson. We couldn't be more proud of you today.
Tyson, you were born into a family, a community, and a heritage like those before you are called to the Torah in recognition of your bar mitzvah. The question becomes, will this be merely an expected exercise, or will you accept all you have learned and embraced over the years and take the responsibilities of perpetuating this tradition? It seems like yesterday you were born. That was a day of high hopes for your future, just as much as it was a time of unknown days ahead. It's hard to imagine 13 years passing so fast, but they have, and they have been filled with joys and hardships alike that have carried endless learning experiences for us both throughout. Tyson, you have a unique ability to care for people, truly listen to others, be kind and fair, having a certain softness that allows others to be comfortable around, to confide in you, and truly love you. You are such a compassionate and loving young man, but I want you to have the strength and courage to recognize, respond, and resolve the issues and circumstances that await you as your journey continues. Your Torah portion is amor, which means to speak. Call it fate or just ironic, as you know we are always having the conversation for you to speak up and use your outside voice. So I hope today is a beginning for you to be heard through speaking up. The importance of this is enormous because who you are is important, and what you have to say is valuable. In doing so, we all get the opportunity to grow when you share your thoughts and beliefs. It is also for your ancestors before you whose voices were muted. I know you will speak about this later, but the portion itself is about the rules of Shabbat and the high holidays. As a bar mitzvah, you've been faced with many rules too, and will be faced with many more as you grow older. Some will be the rule of law, but others will be the rules that you choose to live your life as a Jewish man. Will you continue to be thoughtful and determined to follow your rules, and more important, share them and their ideals with your friends and family? I trust in your intuition and moral compass and the man that you are becoming before our very eyes, and couldn't be prouder of the human being you are today. Tyson, your mother and I love you very much and give you your talit, which in following with our family tradition was given to you by your grandma and grandpa. As you go forward with your own journey, I want you to be strong, be proud, follow the rules, and yes, speak up.
Tyson's going to take the talit from his parents and recite the blessing as a bar mitzvah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiyishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lachitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Nisim ben Nachum v'Sara Rishon.
Again, the Torah reading begins chapter 22, verse 17, and Justin Bass will be reciting the blessing, and Lori Schlisman will be reading the Torah itself.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el Aharon ve'el banav ve'el kol bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem ish mi beit Yisrael ve'umin Ager Yisrael Asher Yakriv Kriv Korbano, Lekol Nidrehem, Ukol Nidvotam, Asher Yikrivu Ladonai, Leolah, Lirtzonechem, Tamim Sakar, Abakar, Bakisavim, Uvaitzim, Kol Asher Bo Mum Lo Takrivu, Kilo Liratzon, Yet Lachem.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. So as Rabbi Vogel mentioned, our little game, he set me up so well talking about this week's Parsha and how there are so many different mitzvot and commandments given in this week's Parsha. And a lot of them relate to how we mark time. We talk about festivals, we talk about Shabbat, fast days, and counting the Omer. And there are actually 3 separate mitzvot mentioned about counting the Omer, which, I think we think of as so minor, such a small thing, counting the Omer, especially as compared to all these other mitzvot about our holidays and Shabbat. But clearly, the Torah values the Omer highly enough to designate 3 mitzvot for it. So since we read those 3 mitzvot in this Parsha, and since we, as Hazan Mimi mentioned at the beginning of our service, we are currently in the period of counting the Omer. We actually just celebrated Lag BaOmer yesterday. I thought maybe we'd take a few minutes and try to understand this mitzvah of counting the Omer. What makes it so important? Why does the Omer matter? So here are the 3 mitzvot. First, on the second night of Passover, take a sheaf of barley and roast it and grind it into flour and bring it to the priest. Second, the priest then elevates it, offers it on the altar the next morning. And third, count the Omer from the second night of Passover to Shavuot. It's a lot of instruction, especially since this is all about barley, which we know they actually considered to be the least valuable of their grains in terms of human consumption. It was had the lowest value. And then on top of what we get in our Torah portion this morning, the Mishnah, the rabbinic commentary, goes into a ton of detail about how exactly the barley was harvested and then transported and roasted and ground and more. And after all these instructions, the Mishnah then says, Rabbi Levi said, so you plowed, seeded, hoed, weeded, harvested, bound, thrashed, and made from it a grain pile. But if I, God, did not provide a little wind, how would you or anyone live at all? So will you not pay me a wage for the wind? By offering the barley flour. It's a funny concept that we would pay God a wage for anything. And of course, it's a very human concept. The people whose statements are recorded in the Mishnah thought of offerings and sacrifices almost as a way of paying God wages, thanking God for what we have, the way we thank human beings. But of all things the rabbis could have provided this specific direction about, it's curious that they chose barley, right? A grain we said that is of pretty low value. Rabbi Mordechai Silverstein, who's a scholar in Israel, asks this very same question about why we would focus so much on barley, why the rabbis would focus so much of their learning and teaching on barley. And Rabbi Silverstein says that, of course, it's to teach us a lesson about gratitude, that we can't just be grateful for the big things in life, but also for the little things. We can't just be thankful for the main dish at our Shabbat dinner table, but even for the barley that we're eating on the side. This is a lesson I think we've all learned a little too well over the past year plus. We're starting to return to some normalcy, to little bits of in-person life. And I can speak for myself, we're not taking anything for granted anymore, right? Just the little things, the smile, the eye contact, the hugs with people, human contact and human connection. For those of you who are able to have that now, if you're fully vaccinated and you feel comfortable, those little things that we used to take for granted, the little things that they're barley. You don't even think about them. But during this time of counting the Omer and slowly taking steps back into normal life, I think this year we will not forget to be thankful, even for things as small as barley. We're going to continue now with the second Aliyah. We have Michelle Hoish, who will be reading page 722 from the Eitz Chaim Chumash, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 21. But first, Chazan Stein will call up for the Aliyah, Neil and Stacy Bass.
יעמדו, יעמדו, נחום בן יוסף ויוכבד ושרה בת ניסים שני.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Veish ki akriv zebach shlamim l'Adonai lepalei neder olin davar babakar ovatzon tamim yel ratzon kol mum lo yebo averet o shavur o charutz o yabelet o karav o yalefet lo takrivu elel Adonai va'ish lo titenu mehem al hamizbeach l'Adonai v'shor v'aseh sarua v'kalut nidava taseh otam uleneder lo yiratzeh umauch v'chatut v'natuk v'charut lo takrivu l'Adonai ume'artzechem lo tasu umeyad nechar lo takrivu et lechem Elohechem michol ele ki moshchatam bahem mumbam lo yiratzu lachem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet b'chayei olam natan b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. Amen.
We'll join together now in a prayer for those who are in need of healing, because we know there are so many of us in our community and beyond who could use some healing. So we're thinking of all of them as we join together in Misha Berach.
Bless the ones before.
praying for the healing of Elon Shayot, Dina bat Yocheved, Chaim ben Sarah, Reuven ben Malka, Chana bat Fegel, Tikva bat Gila Elisheva, Rachel Sarah bat Leah, Shoshana bat Zerel, Sarah bat Rachel, Susan Stavis, Lori Simon, Hinda bat Irene, Rachel bat Moshe Aharon, Hasalea bat Adelaine, Zachary Whedon, Paula Shayot, Yeshua David ben Fagel, Nikki Sandor, Zakit bat Masha, Ariel Harrison, Avram Hanani ben Esther Ita, Uri ben Yehudit, Amy Chandler, Annette Sklar, Asher Yona ben Miriam, Shana Rochel Reb, Moshe Yaakov Vifega Leah, Pesach ben Malka Hinda, and of course, anyone suffering from COVID-19 and the more than 150 people who were injured in Israel during the Lag BaOmer celebration. We're thinking of all of those people and hoping and praying for their full and speedy healing. Continue now with the third Aliyah. We have Bob Epstein, who's going to read for us page 723 in the 8th Time Chumash, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 26. But first, Chazan Stein will call up Joshua and Jordan Bass for the third Aliyah.
Ya'amdu, Yehoshua ben Nachum v'Sara, v'Yarden ben Nachum v'Sara, Shlishi.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, Shor o chesed o ez ki yivaled v'haya shivat yamim tachat imo umiyom hashmini v'hala yeratzeh lekorbon ishe ladonai V'shor oseh oto v'yet beno lo tishchatu bayom echad v'chi tizbechu zevach todah ladonai lirtzonchem tizbachu bayom hahu yeachel lo totiru mimenu ad boker ani Adonai ushmartem mitzvotai Va'asitem otam ani Adonai v'lo techalalu et shem kodshi v'nikdashti betoch b'nei Yisrael ani Adonai v'kadishchem hamotzi etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim l'hiot lahem le'Elohim Ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. We want to thank all of our Torah readers this morning, Lori Schlisman, Michelle Hoish, and Bob Epstein. In just a minute, we'll hear from Tyson as well. But first, we will hear Chatzi Kaddish from Chazan Mimi.
Yitkara v'yitkara shemei Rabba, Lama divrach erutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyam Chaye Decho Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv dimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, la'alam lamei hamaya yitbarach. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramah, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yithaleh. B'yid halal shemed kudusha berichu le'elam mikol berchata b'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata namiran be'alma v'imru amen.
Abachor Habar Mitzvah Ya'amod Ya'amod Tuvia Ben Nisim Revi'i Chazak Chazak.
That was all for you, Tyson. You're going to begin with your Devar Torah words to share about today's portion, and then you'll continue with the reading itself. Go ahead.
My Torah portion, Emor, is about the laws and the holidays. Emor is in the book of Leviticus. It goes over the holidays and their traditions, such as the laws and the rules. Some holidays it talks about are Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Some laws are equality under the law, priests with defects, and no sacrifices with defects. In my Torah portion, Emor talks about laws and equality. This stood out to me because in the life we live in today, there are always people breaking laws, and there are a lot of people who are getting treated unfairly. I think that we need to apply the laws and equality in the Emor because I think it will fix things in today's life. A law in my portion is you have to pay for what you did. That means that if you kill an animal, you have to pay the price by paying for that animal. Also, if you were to kill a person, you would have to die. They have this rule to prevent people from killing each other and to make people scared of doing a sin. This law falls under equality under the law. To become a bar mitzvah means more than anything to me. Becoming a bar mitzvah is a Jewish tradition that has been celebrated for many years. Bar mitzvah and bat mitzvahs have been celebrated for many years in the Jewish community. I'm not planning to end this tradition anytime soon, as I want to make sure that my kid or kids will have a bar or bat mitzvah. The journey to become a bar mitzvah was a heck of a ride and a great experience. Thank you to Devin and Alexis for helping me every week to practice on the prayers. It really helped me a lot and made life a lot easier learning all the prayers. Baruchu et Adonai Hamavara. Baruch Adonai Hamavrach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Ve'asitem se'ir izim echad lehatat ushne chevasim b'nei shana lezevach shelamim ve'henif hakohen otam al lechem habikurim tenofa lipnei Adonai al shenei chevasim kodesh yul Adonai la kohen Ugratem be'etzem hayom hazeh migra kodesh yihyeh lachem kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu ukat olam bechol moshevotechem vedorotechem uvkutrachem et ketzir aratechem lo techale be'at sadecha bekutrecha veleket ketzirecha lo telaket lani velager ta'azovotam ani Adonai Elohechem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, Yehelanu, 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 Ulecha Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecha Yisrael. David melech Yisrael, chai v'kayam. David melech Yisrael, chai v'kayam. Simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, simen tov, Yehelanu.
Oh my gosh. How you feeling? A lot better?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just those of you who are here, you were perfect. It was just like everything that you worried about. See, sometimes, right, I know your mom and dad say, look, don't worry about it, right? It's going to be okay. And hopefully this is one of those moments when you realize, like, yeah. But by the way, it was okay because you did a lot of hard work. It was okay because you took this seriously. It was okay because you always have to be prepared for everything. I mean, that's just, that's Tyson. As I said up here, I thought whatever you do in life, you could certainly be a producer or something. I mean, you were on top of everything that was happening. Stacey Neal, I still can't believe it. Right? It's unbelievable. Almost 28 years ago when I arrived at Aliyah, and I think Jordan is about that age, just about 28, happening in August, I think, one of the first life cycle events I was at here at Temple Aliyah, actually in your home, and I won't go into details, Jordan, about the particular ritual. But to be able, just in over 28 years, to be able to share with your family from the time that you were very young, right, to be able to celebrate through bar mitzvah, your siblings, your family. We've gone through a number of life cycles together, haven't we? Some of celebration and some of sadness. I'm thinking about, by the way, your great aunts who are not able to be here, right? They're aunts or great aunts? They're
Great aunts.
They're great aunts, right? Right, they are. But I know you're there. I know you're watching. I know you couldn't be here. So for all of you, sisters of Stacey, we think of you and all the family that actually can't be here. Ashley, I got to meet you a little over 13 years ago or so, and I've just been, your commitment to parenting and to supporting Jewish family life is just remarkable. And I want to celebrate you in this moment as well. And Justin, it's not hard in this day and age to dedicate a family time to Jewish life, right? It has to be a priority. And that's what it was for your family and for you, Tyson. They just want you to feel the sense of pride about connection to Jewish heritage, all those things we talked about, and about making a difference in this world. As I heard your mom and dad talking with you, I thought about Moses in the Torah. You know Moses, don't you? Would you say he's about the most important Jewish figure we have? Yeah. Pretty big, right? Without him, there's no Exodus, right? There's probably no 10 Commandments. I mean, he's pretty big. Now, do you know at the beginning that he didn't want to become the leader of the Jewish people? God came to him a burning bush and said, I want you to go back to Egypt. He had left Egypt. Remember, I don't know if you remember the story, right? He had killed one of the Egyptian taskmasters because he saw him beating an Israelite and he ran away. And then he comes to this burning bush where God's speaking to him. And God says, I want you to go and to take the Israelites out of Egypt. And he says, look, I am a man of few words. It's not the job for me. Sound like someone we know, maybe? Man of few words. Right? In terms of, right, speaking up. Oh. Right? And I thought about it, and Tyson, it took Moses time to find his voice. And that's what I heard your parents saying. Right? It takes time, but when you have passion like you do about life, when you know that there are things out there that need to be done, when you have a sense that the world needs goodness and that you have that obligation to help bring it into the world, you're going to find that voice. I know it. And this is a moment of connecting all of this heritage to your relationship to family, community, the Jewish people, and changing the world. Tyson, I've got big things in mind for you. I think you're going to make a big difference. So proud of just everybody here. Tell you what, let's all rise together. And those of you where you are in your family or friends circles, put your arms around each other. Put the prayer books down. Those of you at home, I want you to put your arms around anybody next to you, as long as you know them. And it's like, by the way, one arm only. If you have two arms around the same person, it's a little too close, maybe. But we want you, or if you're alone, you imagine being with us. We're going to join together in the blessing of Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheanu v'kimanu v'higianu lezman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheanu v'kimanu v'higianu lezman hazeh.
We turn back now to the Red Sea door, and we are on page 177. Ashley is going to lead us in a prayer for our country.
Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nations. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all people to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Ashley. We're going to continue now with a prayer for the state of Israel. We're on page 178, Avinu Shabbat Shamayim.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulateinu. Avinu Shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulateinu.
Avinu Shebashamayim, bless the state of Israel, bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy, and let us say Amen. We continue now on page 181 with Ashrei, led by Chazan Mimi.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yehalelucha sela. Ashrei am shekachah lo, Ashrei am shenanai lo, Tehillat Adonai yidaber pi, vivarech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed, va'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata be'ad olam, hallelujah.
We'll conclude our Torah service by inviting Stephen up to open the ark and put the Torah back in, and Chazan Mimi will lead us in Eitz Chaim, page 184.
Eitz Chaim
We'll continue now with our Musaf service. We'll give you a few minutes to pray quietly to yourself. If you'd like to rise, the Musaf Amidah begins on page 185 and continues through page 192. And you can pray in the Hebrew or in the English, or you can just take a few minutes for quiet meditation and prayer.
Ose shalom bimroma, יעשה שלום. נעלינו מעל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. נעלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ונאמר אמן.
Kaddish Shalem, page 203.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד וחירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון ויומי חון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ותמם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובהודון לכל בית ישראל קודמו שמיה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen.
We rise for Aleinu, page 205.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, כתב גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו משפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו כחמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, וכמו יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, שנאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Those of you in the live streaming, if you are reciting Mourner's Kaddish and would like to now join us in the Zoom room in order to actually feel that you're more part of the community and be able to recite the words with us, now would be the time for you to go and link into the Zoom room. I'm going to share some announcements with everybody else. Welcome to everybody who's here at Temple Aliyah. Did you have a good time today? No, let me really hear it. Come on. There you go. A little more excitement. There you go. And for those of you in live streaming land, it's just been a pleasure to be in the homes with you today. We celebrated Tyson's bar mitzvah. Cade, you taking notes, buddy? You ready for yours? All right, you got time. Don't worry. You got plenty of time. We want to welcome everybody who joined us online. Those of you who are going to join us later, hopefully you'll have your lunch. We do our virtual Kiddush luncheon. You're welcome to join us. Whether you stay for a while, our regulars, or just pop in to say hello, it's always great just to see you, and you can join us in the Zoom room afterwards. Chazan Mimi tomorrow will be doing her sacred space at 11 o'clock, her meditative, wonderful, beautiful experience. So 11 a.m., look for that information online. Next Friday, by the way, we're going to be back here at 5 o'clock, Chazan. We're going to be back here, you and I, for Brady Leviton's bar mitzvah at 5 o'clock. So if you want to join us for Mincha, you may go into live streaming and join us for this wonderful celebration. Next Friday night is going to be our first Friday night service here back at Temple Aliyah in 14 months. All right, first time in 14 months that we're inviting people back here. So those of you who would like to attend, congregants, you can go to on the website. You have to RSVP. You have to fill out everything, and so that we know exactly who's coming. Adrian Ross must know our committee. She runs in terms of the COVID, and we appreciate your RSVPing, and we hope to see you all, those of you who can. But we're still going to be here with you on live streaming as well. By the way, big news. Would you like to be part of an amazing race, part of an Aliyah Grand Prix? I don't know if you've looked online, those of you who are here. It's been amazing, this car race that we have, Aliyah Grand Prix. The cars, the votes have been cast, and this week we'll find out the winners of the design contest. There's actually a rabbi's cup that we able to vote for in terms of Jewish content. It was a lot of fun. In just a couple of short weeks, we find out whose car is the fastest during an ESPN-style broadcast on May 23rd and June 6th. ESPN style. This is big. Horseman is a raging all this. It's going to be an amazing show. You can still show your support by being an event sponsor. I said, if you still want to show your support, you can be an event sponsor. All right, Aliyah Grand Prix replaces our gala. We need your support in terms of for the year. AliyahRolls.com. That's where you can find all the information. We're always here for you, by the way, even if we're not in the office all the time. The best way, frankly, right now is not to call in. Just send us an email, Rabbi Vogel at Temple Aliyah. Or if you really want something done, just send it to Rabbi Galko at TempleAliyah.org. That's even better. Chazan Mimi, Chazan Stein, Maureen Sweeney, we're all here. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And keep checking on your website for lots of information and the pulse that we send out weekly. All right, now that I've shared announcements, let me get to the moment of memory. It's the end of our services. We recall in reverence those who have gone before us and whose love and whose presence we still feel in our lives. On this Shabbat, remember the yortzites of Pauline Bodell, Sadie Cohen, Dina Elprin, Anna Fox, Abraham Jacoby, Joseph Martin, David Rosenfeld, Rachel Karen Solomon, Hortense Strom, Ted Greenberg, Archie Layton, Salvador Liu, Alan Goya, Annette Kahan, Florence Novelsky, Harry Rothschild, Ken Sherwin, Mindel Schofel, Sarah Tarika, Jacques Astor, Zachary Bramnick, Celine Brooke, Henrietta Goldsmith, Bruce Green, Hannah Levine, Doris Marshall, Raphael Mizrahi, Marilyn Saltman, Jacob Steinberg, Dorothy Toplinsky, Ruben Alpert, Alice Braun, Salvador D'Ignazio, Sidney Engel, Brian Lemberger, Selma Pascal, Edna Shear, Helen Weiser, Joanne Edelstein, Nat Fields, Rebecca Flesher, Peggy Frank, Harvey Gutman, Matilda Ross, Bibi Sharp, Florence Stiebel, June Teplitz, Harold Valk, Helen Wagman, Nathan David Baum, Robert Bruce Miller, Dorothy Naftalin, Madeline Paris, Queenie Surratt, and Ruth Wolf. We're also mindful of the bereavement in our community this past week of Jan Wayne, mother of Lenny Wayne and Robin. And we're also mindful of the more than 40 people, I think 45, who perished in Israel just the other day in a Lag BaOmer celebration. For their families, we send out condolences. For all those who are in need or desire of reciting the mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to rise. Anybody here? Anybody at home? If you're in our Zoom room and you'd like to unmute yourself, you can at this time. A little bit of a cacophony, but we can hear each other's voices, and as we join together in the words of the Kaddish, together, Yit
Gadal,
Yit Kadash,
May
Yemei Rabbah,
Be'alma
Elma Di Bre, Kibute,
Yamlich
Elma,
Ayechon Yomechon
Israel,
Bagala
Allah, Ubizman Kai, Imru, Amen.
Yehei
Hey, Shmei, Rabba Mevara, Alam, Lame, Umayim.
Git Mar
Barak,
Yishtabach Yipa'a
Yishtabach,
Shoma
Ma'a,
Say
Umam, Nase,
Ar
Tada,
Yitaleh
Yitaleh,
Shemei
Shmei, the Kudusha,
Brich
Hu,
Le'elam Ol
Vishirata,
Yeshata,
Shbechata, Venechemata,
Shechata,
Ta'amiran, V'Alva, V'Imru, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Yehei
Hey, Shlam,
Amar Rabba, Min
Rabba, Min Shemayim, Nechayim,
Chaim, Aleinu,
Leinu, Kol
Israel, V'Imru, Amen.
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 Say Shalom, Lama,
Imromav,
Uyah, Shalom, Aleinu,
V'Al
Kol Israel, Imru,
Amen.
Amen.
If you'll please mute yourselves, those of you in the Zoom room again. May God establish his peace in the heavens, grant peace and harmony for us, for all of Israel, all of humanity. As we say, Amen. All right, so it's time for Kiddush and Mozi. So Tyson, I want you to bring up Cade. All right, bring up your mom, Ashley, Justin. You're going to join us up here. And we're all going to rise. Those of you in the sanctuary, those of you at home, if you'd like to rise as well, if you have your Kiddush cup there of wine or grape juice and a challah, you're welcome to join along with us. Chazan Mimi is going to take it away for us.
Ay, 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 ay.
Adonai et Yom HaShabbat ve'akadshechu savri chavarai.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
You don't have to guzzle the grape juice. Go ahead. You're going to wash your hands on Netilat Yadayim, and Tyson, as you do that, take the pitcher, pour over each of your hands. Just as in ancient times, they had to be in a pure state to approach the altar for the sacrifices. The meal table now is our sacrificial altar, if you will. All right, and then you're going to, once you do that, get the towel there, and you can come forward and recite the blessing. Well, Kate, you get the challah for your brother, all right? You go get that thing. It's a big one. Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushan mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen. All right, look at Kate's face with that big challah. Kate, you can eat that whole thing. It's a delicious challah. All right, Mozi, go ahead, together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, hey, Shabbat, Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, hey, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.